Attention, everyone. Attention. We're on the air. Extraordinary people with ordinary lives.
Could someone please tell me what extraordinary means? Hey man, it means you're really good at stuff, and you're cool.
Welcome to the show. So here's an odd story for the day. Anyone who's listened to the news may have heard about the man who strangled a mountain lion. What happened was a man was running down a trail in the Horsetooth Mountain Park in Colorado. That's near Fort Collins. And a mountain lion came out of nowhere and attacked the guy. And in self-defense, apparently he grabbed the mountain lion by the throat and choked him out and killed him. We don't know who the runner was. The news hadn't released his name, at least in the reports I've read. But he was just jogging along. And, you know, sometimes those mountain lions will go after people in their area, running or jogging along trails or, you know, through the mountains. And this guy somehow, grabbed that mountain lion by the throat and killed him. I haven't heard of stuff like that since I read Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan books. Of course, by the way, I've read all of those. Tarzan was an incredible guy. Lord Greystoke, the strongest man in the world, lived in Africa, married to Jane, and, killed lions and apes and everything else that attacked him. So this guy in Colorado, just a normal guy, killed a mountain lion. And then, after the attack, he walked to the hospital because, he had injuries here and there, probably some cuts and scrapes. Apparently his face and one of his hands was injured. So could you imagine being the medical worker standing there when this guy walks through the door? "Hello, sir. Can we help you?" "I've been attacked by a mountain lion, and, I got a few cuts. I wonder if you could help me out." That's incredible. So there's a good story for the day, and one that I'll not soon forget. It's time for political cornflakes. Hey, dude, can you eat these cornflakes?
Just shut up and listen.
Political cornflakes. News and commentary from around the world. Recently, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez revealed her Green New Deal. By the way, Ocasio-Cortez reminds me of that new kid we all remember who moved into town, came to school, and on the first day wanted to change all those time-honored traditions the old-timers hold sacred. Half the school wants to beat them up, and the other half just wants to go out and smoke cigarettes behind the school building. And that's how it is. The Green New Deal is, according to Ocasio-Cortez, a comprehensive agenda of economic, racial, and social justice in the United States. Spoken in plain terms, part of her proposal is a 10-year plan to get rid of things like farting cows and airplanes. Steps to control rising environmental concerns, of course. Speaking of farting cows and airplanes, for those of you who remember the punk rock era, doesn't that sound like a perfect name for a punk band? Farting cows and airplanes? Anyway, the puns are rolling in. Her plan is utter nonsense, says most of America. Does she not know that milk comes from cows and cheese comes from milk? The cooks in the congressional cafeteria will no longer be cutting the cheese and laying the crackers on those brunch trays. Reduction in cow herds will simply raise the stakes in every meat market in the country. Poor cows, they simply can't control their flatulence. On another note, The country is headed for another partial government shutdown if Donald J. Trump doesn't get his wall money. Some backroom deals have been considered, but as of now, there seems to be no real plan to keep the U.S. government open. On the last shutdown, the longest in U.S. history, real dollars lost, money that is gone forever, amounted to about the same amount as the $5.7 billion Trump wanted for his wall. That amount should be concerning to all U.S. citizens who are forced to balance their budget each week to avoid bankruptcy. To lawmakers and the president, it's just part of doing business. U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross was perplexed why furloughed government workers didn't just go to the bank and take out a loan to carry them through the hard times. Now there's a man who is truly out of touch with mainstream middle and lower class America. A loan, if one could be obtained with the income-to-debt ratio most of those employees maintain, would carry a stiff 18 to 26% interest rate. That's loan sharking at its best. Good advice, Commerce Secretary Ross. If a giant wall or fence on the southern border were truly the best option available, then Trump should get his money and be done with his political hustle on the issue. The down payment of $5.7 billion is pocket change in the national coffers. Keep in mind, however, walls and fences were not designed to completely keep people out. They are, and have been for thousands of years, nothing more than pesky obstacles for those who want to get in. Take a look at the sections of border walls already in place. You will see video after video of folks climbing over and digging under those giant walls. And you may also discover that most folks just figure out a way to breach the wall legally by driving or flying in, and then decide not to go back. And if you're one of those people who compare a border wall with private home security devices like fences, gates, and door locks, keep in mind those things are only minor inconveniences for those criminals who decide to break into your house and ruin your day. Security devices were designed to give the illusion of safety, not safety itself. A better policy than the border wall is to take away the benefits of what brings the illegal folks into the country in the first place. It's the free stuff. Remove that incentive and watch the illegal immigrant numbers tumble. If social programs and emergency handouts were only offered to legal citizens, case solved. Problem is, the same people who can't compromise on how to build a border wall certainly can't be trusted to negotiate something so intricate and important as a sound immigration policy and controls to the public dole. And to rest my case, I give you the Green New Deal. I'm really excited about our show today and our guests. We have Ben and April, who are truck drivers, and they're going to tell us some things about the truck driving industry that maybe we didn't know already. So I have to tell you, years ago, I worked in the meat industry, and we had to buy a semi-truck to haul ice and other things. And I never had a CDL license. We always had another individual driving this semi-truck for us. But I occasionally got in that truck, started it up, and drove it down the road just because I liked to. It was fun. Being way up high, you're towering above all of the other vehicles on the road, and it's just exciting. Some people actually make their living working in these trucks, and I find it really fascinating, and I thought it would be interesting to interview a couple of people who did this for a living. So we'll have Ben on the air first, and then we'll talk to April. Okay, I'm here with Ben, who is a truck driver. Ben, you're not an over-the-road trucker. You actually drive around town in various communities and deliver large freight. Is that right?
That's correct.
So how big of a truck do you have? What kind of truck is it, first of all?
I'm in a Kenworth. It's just a little single axle.
Okay. And do you typically just have one trailer, or do you take two sometimes? How does that work?
It depends on the day, how heavy our, the volumes or whatever we're trying to deliver is, or, it just depends on the day. It could be long vent, it could be doubles. It just depends.
Okay. So what's a typical day like for you? You go in the morning and pick up your load and hit the road. How does that work?
Yeah, so I'll start, and I'll go in and they'll have a general area they want us in that day. And so, we pick up the packet and inspect our trailers, make sure everything's correct, and then, we head out.
I see. So you work in Utah. Do you deliver typically around the Salt Lake area then?
So, yeah, I will deliver, well, it really depends. I could be anywhere from Idaho clear out to Dugway. It doesn't, it's anywhere in Utah is basically free game.
But you're usually home at the end of the day, each evening.
Yep. I go home every night.
So when you're on the road, Utah is known for two things. In the wintertime, it has snow and ice. And it also has, I hate to say it, but it's true. Utah is known for its crazy, bad drivers. So let's talk about the potential of slick roads. How do you deal with that when you're in your truck?
Okay. Well, when the roads are slick or when it, rains and there's a potential to hydroplane or to do a slide off, you want to slow down,
right.
And what we do is most truck drivers will slow down and let the cars either go by them, or we want to be in a position where we're away from everyone.
Right.
So if something were to happen, we lose control and we slide off, we don't want to kill anyone because we will.
Right.
Most of us are running around with between 65 to 80,000 pounds total.
Right.
And if we lose control, there's no stopping that. You're going to slide off, you're going to hit or regain control. And, even if we jackknife, we'll rip a car in half.
Right. So 80,000 pounds is a lot of mass.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, what would you suggest to other motorists on the road, whether it's wintertime or summer? What would you suggest for people to do to just be safe driving around big trucks?
Stay out of blind spots. Don't cut us off. And specifically for this one on merge lanes, if we're in that far right lane, the merge lane, a lot of the time we're in that lane because we're unfamiliar with the area, right?
Okay.
So when those lanes cut out, don't fly past us when it's that close to the end of the merge lane, because we cannot stop, and we've already based our speed at a safe amount, right? So our following distance from the car in front of us is what we deem a safe amount because of the time that we need to stop. We can't stop quickly. It takes us at least, it depends on how fast you're going, but it takes us at least the length of a football field to stop quickly.
Yeah.
And that's not safely. That's to slam on those brakes and lock up our axles. That's not fast.
Mm-hmm.
So don't speed up when it comes to the end of that merge lane. Don't speed up and try to fly past us because most of us can't see you over there. And
so passing on the right is kind of a bad idea anyway.
Yeah, don't pass on the right. I mean, obviously, if we're in a lane and we're slowing it down to the point where you can't get over to the left, but the right lane's available, I mean, we probably shouldn't be in that lane. But don't think that you can get away with it, especially the smaller cars, because we will not see you. And if we don't know you're there and we merge over, we'll go right over the top of you.
So I've seen those signs on trucks that say if we can't see you in our mirrors. Or if you can't see our mirrors, we can't see you. Is that correct?
That's entirely accurate, yes.
Okay. And so, also, Ben, could you just explain to those who may not know or may not have thought about what is, in fact, the blind spot for a big rig?
The blind spot is basically, we can't see you. If you're directly behind us, we can't see you. So we have, most of us, when we set our mirrors to a 180-degree angle. So we can see most of our side, what's in front of us, and most of our back, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you're right up next to my tractor, right at my front wheel,
Uh-huh.
I cannot see you.
Okay.
Because where I'm positioned, most cars are lower than than my cab.
Right.
So I can't see you there.
Uh-huh.
So stay away from that spot and the same spot on the driver's side of the tractor. And sometimes, let's say you're in the lane right next to me on my right side, and you're at the edge of your lane, there's a chance that I won't see you there either.
Okay.
The way that the mirrors are, we can't see the entire lane all the time. So there's blind spots everywhere in those tractors, and you have to train yourself to look everywhere before you merge lanes.
So would you suggest to drivers who approach a big rig just to quickly get past that truck as safely as possible and on down the road? Don't linger around next to a truck.
Absolutely. Do not drive next to semis.
That's good.
That's just asking for accidents to happen.
So Ben, if someone is looking into the trucking business and wants to become a trucker, what would you suggest they do? I know that there are different types of truck driving, like over the road, where you basically deliver throughout the country, and then short hauls. What would you suggest, generally speaking, for someone who wants to get into the industry?
Do all of your research. It is an amazingly rewarding job. My job is I travel all over Utah. I go to different places I've never been. I see different things I've never seen. It's an amazing job, and I love doing it. But there are downsides to that. The stress level that this job gives you, you have to learn to deal with it.
Uh-huh.
Because, you have to keep in your head at any given moment, you could kill an entire family by one mistake, following too close, not checking your lanes. This job requires you to be on point all the time. I worked construction before I became a truck driver.
Uh-huh.
And I am more tired now than I ever was then.
Just because of the stress of driving. Yeah.
The stress of driving and the amount of attention that you have to do this job it takes it all out of you.
Yeah. So that brings up a question, Ben. Do truck drivers, are they required to take breaks periodically?
That's a touchy one, because technically, yes, you're obligated. I think it's different for me because I'm parking and then driving and then parking and then driving. I'm not driving continuously. Yeah. And I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think you're supposed to pull over and stretch your legs every 50 to 80 miles. I think that's what they recommend for over-the-road drivers, is you're supposed to take a break, check your load, make sure everything's okay, and stretch. Take a break out of the tractor.
So, Ben, this podcast is about people. And I'm just wondering, what do you consider is your claim to fame?
My claim to fame? Define that one for me a little bit.
So, if you define yourself between your career and your personal life and the things that you do at home and the things that you do at work. If you were to tell somebody, this is really who I am, this is kind of my, if I was to be known for being famous about something, this is what it would be.
Well, I tend to sink my feet down, take a minute, and I try to figure everything out on my own. And if I can do it myself, I'm going to do it, and that's why I'm good at a lot of things, is because I take the time to get good at it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you identify yourself as a do-it-yourself type of person?
Yeah.
So in your home, you do your own remodeling and things like that. You don't hire that type of stuff done, especially with your construction background.
Yeah. No, if I can do it myself, I don't see a point in paying somebody to do it. And that's just who I am. So, I mean, yeah, I adapt and overcome, and that's what I do. It's how I've been. I've always done that.
Right. Well, thanks, Ben. We appreciate Ben being with us on the show. We're going to head on over to April Shepley now, who's on the line. April drives out of Washington, and April used to drive long haul over the road trucking, and that's changed recently, April.
Yeah.
So where's your main delivery area? Do you drive like around a certain state or a certain community? How does that work?
Yeah, I normally pick up within 400 miles of the greater Seattle area, and deliver in that area. Sometimes I just deliver the load back to our yard because it's going, to a different destination outside of my delivery area. So I'll bring it back to the yard. They'll put it on an over-the-road truck, and then they'll take it to, South Carolina or, New York, wherever. But most of the stuff we pick up, we actually do deliver.
Cool. So one of the questions, April, is trucking has, I think, has had the stereotype of being an industry that attracts a lot of men. How is it for women working in the truck driving industry?
I have not had any issues with any man trying to tell me what to do or how to do it, or other than friendly, helpful advice.
Right.
And pretty much the way I've lived my life, if you do your job and you do it well, nobody cares.
Yeah, I found that same thing.
Yeah, and I happen to work for a company that does have some of the best drivers, period, out there. And we are always out helping each other load, tarp, chain. If I have a question, I can call any of the guys, and they'll give me a good answer with safety in mind. And we all get along really well.
Yeah, that's one of the issues that Ben brought up, who I spoke with earlier, and that is the fact that a lot of companies spend the time to train their drivers well and make sure that they're ready to be good drivers when they get out on the road. So,
yeah,
one of the things
doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think it's one of those issues where, it's like in any industry. You have good workers and bad. And obviously everybody can't be playing their A game every second of the day. But I think, it's something that people have to do, especially in a big truck, a outfit that could kill a lot of people if it's out of control. You'd want to be on your best game pretty much all the time you're on the road.
Yeah, we always have to have our head in what we're doing, and not only are we driving our truck, but 9 times out of 10 we're driving the other person's car around us, because we have to know what they're going to do before they do it, or we're going to run into them or kill them. You know.
So the Seattle area has bad weather, ice and snow occasionally, and rain. When the roads are bad, typically what is a good thing what do truckers generally do when the roads are bad?
Well, a good trucker, if the roads are bad, they're going to slow down, they're going to increase their following distance, and they're going to give themselves an out. So whether that's the shoulder of the road, whether that's, being able to switch lanes, they're always going to adjust their speed so that they always have an out. And when a car, comes up beside you and runs along the side of you and paces you, then you have to either slow down so much that you're impeding traffic, or you have to speed up, which is going to affect your following distance. Right. So cars, pacing us is really a problem. And then just pulling in front and slamming on your brakes, or even just pulling into that space that we've left there for ourselves, then we have to adjust the back again. And then the cars behind us are yelling at us because we're slowing down, but we're only doing it to not kill somebody in front of us.
Right. And that was one of the things that Ben brought up. There's that famous blind spot that actually all cars have, but especially trucks, because you have a long trailer and so forth.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to become a trucker, and let's just say anybody who is looking into the industry, what's a good thing for them to do if they want to become either an over-the-road driver or a local driver?
Well, if somebody was really interested in becoming a truck driver, the first thing I would do is I would search out, find somebody, whether it's a friend or, maybe a company, local company, somebody that would let you ride along with one of their drivers for a day or even an over-the-road trip somewhere and get the idea of what it's like to be in that truck by yourself or, for more than a 4 or 5 hour period. It's a lot of hard work. It can be rewarding. I mean, it's very rewarding as far as money wise and stuff. I mean, I make good money, and it's rewarding to know that I can go out and chain on a 40,000 pound piece of equipment and haul it, but if you're not prepared for what it's like in that truck all by yourself all the time, it can get very, discouraging.
Yeah. So that brings up a question, especially for over-the-road truckers who are out there all day long. Does the feds require truckers to take breaks occasionally? How does that work?
Yeah, we have, so we can drive 11 hours in a 14-hour period. So you have you have 3 hours to load or to take a nap or to get your dinner without it affecting your driving time. And then in that time, you have to take a 30-minute break before your 8-hour mark. So anytime before 8 hours, you have to take a 30-minute break. And that's all the breaks we really have to have. Other than like a flatbed driver has to do load checks at 150 miles or every 3 hours, whichever comes first. Van drivers, they don't really have a load check because a lot of their vans are locked, or sealed, so they can't open them. But of course, the reefer drivers, they're stopping to check their refrigeration, make sure it's not too cold, too hot, whatever. So, but other than that, there's not really a mandatory period of rest. Other than after you're 11, then you have to take a 10.
So, April, this podcast is about people. And I ask everybody who comes on my show what your personal claim to fame is. So if you were to identify yourself or define yourself to someone, what would that be?
Well, that's a really good question. I think of myself as I'm a truck driver. I'm not a woman truck driver. I'm pretty much a tomboy. And I just am a hard worker. But one thing, I grew up in a family that was, writers, poets. And so I have written poetry down most of my life. And I was lucky enough in 2013 to publish a poetry book of mine on Amazon. And, you know, that it felt good to put it all down in writing for somebody else to read.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've done my own share of writing, and it seems to be not only therapeutic, but it's also really enjoyable. It's a great pastime. So
I agree.
For all of our listeners out there, April's poetry book, like she said, is on Amazon. It's published there. A person can pick it up for a good price. The name of the book, the title is Family Lines, a Book of Poetry. And if anyone is interested in good, I don't know, April, how would you define your poetry? It's very homey, down to earth, grassroots kind of writing.
Yeah.
Is that how you would describe it?
I think so. Yeah, a lot of mountainy hunting. I've got a couple in there about truck driving, and there's a couple about love. But
yeah, well, we have to have a love poem.
Yeah, but yeah, they're pretty down to earth. A lot of them are inspired by family and hunting and fishing trips and stuff like that.
That's really nice. So if anyone wants to pick up a great book of poetry, that's Family Lines, a Book of Poetry on Amazon.
We're on the air for Voice Right Studios.